So TCOMAS is a new name in the PC cooling game, but the company already has a solid lineup of AIO CPU coolers, ranging from a $120 budget model with RGB to a top tier LCD screen version costing a whopping $310 US. But what do these TCOMAS AIOs have that might persuade you to buy one of these over a more established brand? Well, let's find out. So as I say, TCOMAS is a new name to me and probably to you guys in the PC cooling market. The company recently reached out to us asking if they could get some of their coolers reviewed on the Kit Guru channel. Obviously we were happy to oblige, and they sent over these 4 AIOs. So in front of me on the bench, we've got the budget LE200, that costs $120. They're not available, any of these, in the UK at the moment, but you can pick them up in the US on Amazon. That's why I'm quoting US prices. The next one in line is the WG600, which is this one. It's an LCD cooler. The LE200 is just an ARGB, there's no LCD on that. And that's got an initial MSRP of $200. I couldn't find that one yet on Amazon, so I'm guessing that will be launched or released soon to the US market. And then the next one is a step up to one of the top tier coolers. So it's this one here. That's the LG700 Pro. And then on the test system still is the absolute top of the range model. That's the LX800 Pro, and that one costs $310 US. You can pick up both the LX and the LG on Amazon. The LG, I think that's around $290 US, so they're quite pricey, but they do come with high resolution LCD screens. When TCOMAS reached out to us, they were very excited about these coolers, and particularly the fans, especially these on the LG700 and the LX800. So I'm really interested to see how these coolers perform, because the base hardware across all of these, so the radiator, the pump and the CPU block, is all identical. It's just really a difference in the top covers, so the water block top covers, so you've got the RGB, LCD, 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 and the fans. That's the big difference between them. Obviously, the RGB lighting effects are different between it, and there's different configurations of the screen. So I'll quickly run you through the base hardware and the specifications of the base hardware. So they're all compatible with current Intel and AMD desktop platforms, so Intel LGA700, LGA1851, etc., and AMD AM4, AM5. They all feature an aluminium radiator, slightly thicker than the usual 27mm. These are 29.2mm thick, with 12 waterways and a dense fin pitch. Dimensions of the radiator, so as you can see, they're all 360mm versions. The dimensions overall of the radiator is 394 by 119.2 by 29.2mm. They all have tubing fixed at the radiator end, but they all have rotary 90-degree fittings at the CPU block. Tubing length is 400mm long. It's an EPDM reinforced rubber tubing, also covered with a premium braided sleeving. All these coolers have good build quality. They do look high quality. The coating on the radiator, it's got kind of a textured finish to it, like a satin finish, but with a texture. It all looks good quality. In terms of the pump, it's TCOMAS X6M pump. They all have an X6M, but some of them have a X6M-P. I've not been able to find out really the difference between them. They all have the same maximum speed. They're all PWM controlled. It's a microskived copper cold plate on all of these coolers, and they all use standard electrical connection, so standard PWM headers for the fans and the pump, and a standard 3-pin 5-volt ARGB connection to connect the RGB lighting. And then the LCD screen models, they all use a standard USB 2 motherboard header connection. So as I say, the base budget model is this $120 LE200. The LE200 is TCOMAS affordable AIO featuring entry-level ARGB lighting that can be connected, configured and controlled by motherboard ARGB sync software. However, the LE200 is compatible with the WG600 screen. So the WG600, this is more expensive, I think $200, but that comes with an LCD screen. Potentially that LCD screen will be for sale separate. So if you buy the LE200 and you later think you want to upgrade to the screen, you can buy this one from the WG600 and attach it straight to the LE200, connect up the USB connection, and away you go. The fans on the LE200, TCOMAS didn't really mention much about these fans, but what we know about these are they have a speed range of 650 to 2,500 RPM, maximum airflow of 81.8 cubic feet per minute, maximum air pressure of 3.2 millimeters H2O, and a maximum individual noise level of 35 decibels. As I say, standard connections on the fan, so 4-pin PWM control and 3-pin 5-volt ARGB connection all connect straight to the motherboard, so you don't need any additional hubs or software to run the LE200. The WG600, you could say this is the mid-range, so it's mid-range with LCD screen. It's approximately $200, or that's the initial MSRP it should be when it becomes available. As I say, all the rest you can pick up now. The WG600, I couldn't find it right now on Amazon US, but I am assured it is to be launched soon. The TCOMAS WG600 is built on the same water block design as the LE200, equipped with the company's X6MP pump and microscale copper cold plate, but featuring a 3.95-inch IPS display with 480 by 480 resolution and an aluminium bezel with a polished finish which attaches magnetically to the CPU block. The display can be configured to show a custom animation, custom images, GIFs, and also real-time system information using the TCOMAS software. Essentially everything about the WG600 apart from the screen and the fans is the same as the LE200, same radiator, same tubing, and the same CPU block and copper cold plate. The fans are TCOMAS FA200 with a speed range of 650 to 2,600 RPM, maximum airflow of 94.39 cubic feet per minute, and a maximum air pressure of 4.15 millimeters H2O. These have a maximum noise output of 37.2 decibels. These are 28 millimeter thickness fans, but they still use the same 4-pin PWM connectivity as the LE200. These are daisy chained, these fans, and you just connect the cable at the end, but on the WG600 they're sort of daisy chained, but you have to connect this extension lead individually. So that one, when it's installed, it looks a little neater than the WG600, even though this is more expensive. If you want to make a step up from the WG600, the next one in line is this LG700 Pro. Again, it uses the same radiator, the same style tubing, the same water pump and CPU block copper cold plate, identical to both of these others, but this is a step up in terms of the fans and the LCD screen. The LG700 Pro is one of TCOMA's flagship products. It comes with a water block mounted IPS display with an upgraded resolution of 640 by 480 that can be controlled and configured using the TCOMAS software. Also equipped with high performance fans with a speed range up to 3,200 RPM, PWM control and extreme static pressure and airflow with metal accents and ARGB lighting. It's also equipped with a small fan on the underside of the LCD screen for cooling motherboard components such as the VRM. So the LG700 Pro features that upgraded LCD screen. It is quite a nice screen to look at. One thing you will notice about all of these coolers when they've got the screens and the top covers attached, they are quite tall. These fans are a little more interesting than the others because you can see these all connect to each other. So they're all magnetic connections and they have these pogo pin connectivity for the electronics. You just hook them in at the top and they connect together like that. The FC700 Pro fans, they have some metal accents on the sides there, so it's a brushed aluminium on the side, and then on the front these are also metal plates, but these are kind of anodized in a gold or a rose gold color. I would have liked to have seen it all matching, to be fair. You put in a gold color like that, you're trying to set a theme off in the system, which may not work with the majority of systems and styles. Also the interconnecting fans, they all clip together magnetically, and then you just attach on the end there the cable that passes through the PWM signal and the ARGB lighting to the motherboard. And then the absolute top of the range for the TCOMAS AIOs is the one that's still on the test system. That's the LX800 Pro, and that's priced at $310 on Amazon. The LX800 Pro is another flagship model from TCOMAS, featuring a 2.8-inch circular main LCD display on top of the pump with a secondary 1.44-inch square display on the pump side. side for comprehensive data display and customization. It features the same LG700 high performance fans with PWM speed up to 3,200 RPM, high static pressure and high airflow, as well as compatibility with all current desktop platforms from Intel and AMD. So again, this is a slight step up from the LG700 Pro. Again, this uses all standard motherboard connections. There is some other upgrades on these coolers in terms of the cabling. So the lower in the range just use standard cables like these and these, but the higher range models use braided cables, which gives it a more premium look. And they also have cable clips on there for managing cables and making it look a little more neat. You also notice on the ends of the tubing at either end, we've also got these covers that look a little more premium compared to the lower models. The LX800 again uses the same fans as the LX700 Pro, so it's got the aluminium accents and the gold hub design. That has a speed range of 600 to 3,200 RPM, maximum airflow of 115 cubic feet per minute, maximum air pressure of 7.48 millimeters H2O, and a maximum individual noise output of 41 decibels. As I say, they all use the same pump, PWM control for the pump and for the fans, and the pump speed is 1,400 to 2,750 RPM.
If you're looking for a new chair, then definitely go and check out boolies.co.uk. They offer a whole host of gaming and office chairs that come in a variety of different finishes and different colours.
So that's a quick rundown of each one of these coolers and the features. I will list the full features and specifications of all of these coolers on the page that will be on the KitGuru website. So if you want to check out these in a bit more detail, head over to kitguru.net and take a look over there. In terms of accessories, so with the lower end model, so these two, you get this box which has the QR code on the front for the installation manual. You download that or you can check that out at the TCOMAS website, but inside there is all the installation hardware for installing the coolers on Intel or AMD and any cable accessories that you need. The other two, so the top tier coolers, they come with everything sorted out into this plastic case, so all the backplates, screws, standoffs, etc. are in there. The cables and the upper mounting brackets, they all come in separate boxes. The fans come pre-attached to these two models, but the higher models, you have to attach those to the cells, so these technically will be a little quicker to install than these that you have to attach the fans and connect wiring, etc. But this review is all about the performance of these fans. It's going to be really interesting to see what difference these different fans make in terms of thermal performance. But before we look at that, let's quickly look at the installation process. As I say, these all use very similar hardware other than fans and the pump covers. So the installation process in terms of the base hardware is all identical. Since our test system uses an AMD Ryzen 9 9950X CPU, I'll quickly run you through the process on AM5. All the TCOMAS coolers use the same method for installing the base hardware to the motherboard. I'll show you that part of the installation now. The LCD coolers will require additional wiring connections, but the main principle of installation is this. First, select the correct upper mounting brackets for your CPU socket and attach them to the base of the CPU block using the small Phillips head screws. Next, on AMD, remove the stock upper plastic retaining brackets and put them to one side. Thermal compound is pre-applied to all of the coolers, so the user doesn't need to do this, but we remove the stock paste for testing and use Arctic MX6 on all coolers for consistency. Now lower the CPU block into position over the CPU and align the upper mounting screws with the backplate thread and tighten the cooler down evenly and progressively in an X-shaped pattern. For the wiring, all models need the PWM cable from the fans connecting to a motherboard PWM header, usually labeled CPU_fan. The pump connects to another PWM header, usually AIO pump or CPU_OPT, and the RGB cable is connected to a motherboard 3-pin 5V ARGB header. For the LCD screen models, you will need to connect the USB cable to a spare USB 2 motherboard header, but once you've mounted the radiator in the case, that's the installation complete. For testing the thermal performance, we used our usual 9950X test system You can check out all the testing methodology over at kitguru.net, where there will be the full written review page for all of these coolers. So let's start by looking at noise output, as this gives a good indication of performance based on the noise. Very disappointingly, all of the TCOMAS coolers are extremely loud when running at max fan speed. Both the LE200 and the WG600 at 56 decibels are among some of the loudest coolers we have ever tested. But they don't even come close to the 60 decibels noise limit from both the LG700 Pro and the LX800 Pro, which is beyond distracting and just inexcusably loud and annoying. Still, with the fans running at max speed and a fixed CPU frequency and V-core, all of the TCOMAS coolers sit in mid-table, which seems like respectable thermal performance, but with fan speeds of between 2,500 to 3,200 RPM, the true performance isn't great at all, when plenty of other coolers with much lower fan speeds outperform TCOMAS. Since the TCOMAS fans run at such high RPM, the fan speeds need to be significantly reduced to hit the 40 decibel noise limit, which means the thermal performance drops off so much that even the high-end models are sat at the bottom of the charts and beaten not only by competing premium products, but also coolers that are 3 times cheaper. In the PBO test, the important metric is clock frequency, as the CPU automatically adjusts clock multiplier based on a target temperature, so the temperature delta between coolers is close. Again, in the PBO test, it's a very poor showing for the TCOMAS coolers. The LE200 budget model is performing on a similar level as some other budget models, but again, with the high fan speed and noise output, the performance is deceiving. But the high-end models with their fast, high-pressure fans are not providing any benefit in terms of PBO speed, so the high fan speed and extreme noise is unnecessary and makes the coolers so distracting at max fan speed that they are completely useless in this configuration. So thermal performance overall across all of these coolers is pretty disappointing. I suppose you'd expect a lower level of thermal performance from a budget cooler, but this is $120, this LE200, which TCOMAS say it's their budget cooler. And to be fair, that's not really cheap, is it, for a budget AIO? You can pick up good quality and good performance budget AIOs for well under $100, maybe even some at half the price of this. So in terms of value for money, for a budget cooler, I don't think the value for money is great and the performance is really poor. There's also some issues with the RGB lighting on the fans. You can see quite a lot of light bleed from the individual LEDs. So for me, that's not a great budget option. In terms of the WG600, again, performance is quite poor for a $200 AIO CPU cooler with 28mm thick fans. I expect much better performance than what we saw with the WG600. It's extremely loud at maximum fan speed, so is the LE200. And when you reduce the speed down to hit that 40 decibels noise target, performance drops off even further to the point of where this is one of the worst performing AIOs in our charts. Same story again for the LG700. I mean, all of these look nice. They have decent build quality. There's nothing wrong in terms of the aesthetics, though that is a subjective thing. But in terms of build quality, they all look solid, well built, and they do look like premium products, but they're seriously let down by the thermal performance. If I'm paying almost $300 for an AIO CPU cooler, I'd want top-notch thermal performance. They're extremely loud, the LG700 with these FC700 Pro fans, hitting 60 decibels at maximum RPM. And to put that into perspective, the building that I'm doing this testing in and working in, it's on 3 stories. When I had this CPU cooler running at maximum speed and it's kicking out 60 decibels, I was 2 stories down and I could still hear it. So that just puts into perspective how loud this cooler is at maximum speed. And like the other two, when you reduce the fan speed, it significantly lowers the thermal performance. So for $290, yes, it's got a nice looking LCD screen, software controlled. It's quite easy to install, but performance for me is just way off the mark of what you'd expect for a top tier CPU cooler, especially a 360mm radiator. Another thing I want to say as well about these LCD coolers, the software on these coolers is pretty terrible. And that is being kind to it. The user interface is not user-friendly at all. It almost looks like it's an unfinished product, difficult to navigate, it's confusing, it's difficult to understand how to configure the screen using the software. So the software for me needs a lot of work to get that up to a top tier or a premium level, such as like Corsair iQ or Lian Li L-Connect software. That is really poor, really lets it down for me, as well as the poor performance. The software is really bad. The LX800 Pro, well, it does look good. I like the idea with those two screens. I like the aluminium pump top. It looks very premium. The fans look premium. The RGB lighting on the fans may be a little disappointing for some with those small highlights on each corner. But again, LX800 Pro, $310, and performance is way below what I'd expect. Both these premium coolers are right down at the bottom of the charts when the speed or the fan speed is reduced to 40 decibels. And there's no excuse for that really, especially when you look at the charts and you see at the top of most of our charts is the Arctic Liquid Freezer Pro 420, which is a budget cooler. I think it's just over £100, and that's a 420, and it outperforms all of these by a long way. There's plenty of 360mm budget coolers that outperform all of these also. So to say I'm disappointed with these coolers is an understatement. I don't think any of these are worth spending the money on. Even the budget model is expensive for a budget model. This mid-range version, the LG600, yes, it's got a nice looking screen, but again, the performance for me just lets all of these down massively. Plus the software is just absolutely awful to use. So that's the TCOMAS AIO lineup, the LE200, the WG600, the LG700 Pro, and the LX800 Pro. I hope you've enjoyed watching this review. If you have, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to Kit Guru if you're not already a subscriber. We're also on TikTok now, and if you want to catch up on all the in-depth technical reviews, head over to our website.